healthcare lobbyists are working overtime in an effort to defeat any possibility of Medicare for All becoming a reality. Now, there's one particular group known as Center Forward that is getting together with like-minded individuals to come up with a game plan to defeat Medicare for All. And one of the things that they do, and this is certainly indicative of the healthcare industry overall, is they get some of these congressional staffers together at fancy, ritzy resorts in an effort to wine and dine them and convince them to work against Medicare for All. Now, according to The Intercept, Center Forward's big idea on Medicare Part D, for instance, is to maintain lobbyist-authored provisions of the law that bar the government from bargaining for lower prices for medicine. Such restrictions cost taxpayers and patients as much as $73 billion a year while boosting the profits of drug makers. So to give you an idea of how they push for what they want in terms of continuing the private healthcare industry and continuing the system the way it is, several aides to Democratic leadership filed disclosures showing that they received paid travel to attend the Center Forward retreat, including chiefs of staff to Majority Whip Jim Clyburn and Majority Leader Steny Hoyer. So again, this is very similar to what pharmaceutical companies do with some doctors. They'll have some sort of retreat at a fancy resort. The doctors will go, they get wined and dined, and it's likely that they'll get influenced by what the pharmaceutical industry wants. And the same thing is happening here with Center Forward, the private healthcare industry, and these congressional staffers.
So there's more analogies there, but the only thing that I'll disagree with a little bit is that there's not a chance they'll be influenced, it's a guarantee. This is corruption defined. And so they come over and they say, okay, now here's your marching orders and you will do as you're told. The $560 trip to a fancy retreat is tip of the iceberg. That's not the real deal. That's just where they tell them what their job is. Here, we are your donors, you shut up and you do as you are told. But we're telling you in a very nice and pleasant context of a mansion that you've all been invited to, right? No, the real deal is in the money that they contribute to their politicians and the other forms of the lobbying. So Center Forward is just a rebrand for corporate Democrats. They've had a lot of rebrands because they're toxic and nobody likes them. No actual voters like them. There's no voters in America who are like, oh my God, if I could just get a Democrat who loves giant multinational corporations and does favors for them instead of looking out for our voters. That voter does not exist. The only thing that props them up is branding, marketing, and help from television. So everybody on TV are like, oh my God, these centrist Democrats are so reasonable. The way they want to work with Dick Cheney and Mitch McConnell and the oil companies and the pharmaceutical companies and the defense contractors, that is how bipartisanship should work. And there's corruption on that level too. But in this case, I mean, look, we've had what? The Blue Dog Democrats, they were in attendance, if any of them still exist. Almost all of them have lost their elections, again, because they are deeply unpopular in the real world. Problem Solvers Caucus, that means I worked with Mitch McConnell to solve the donor problems, and New Democrats. And those are all corporate Democrats. Now you got Center Forward. You could call it whatever the hell you like. It's corruption either way. So look, even the progressive presidential candidates, unfortunately, won't call it what it is. And you have to name it. So people love saying that about other issues. I'll say it about this issue. Corruption. So is Steny Hoyer corrupt? Yes, yes. And so Jim Clyburn, yes, he's done some great work in the past in other issues. Is he corrupt in this way? Yes. So the people who have attended, Kurt Schrader, Dan Lipinski, of course. Dan Lipinski is a massively right-wing Democrat. And he's in a very blue district. And he goes over, why is he so right-wing? Part of it is ideological on issues like abortion, and part of it is he gets legally bribed to be that right-wing, and he's that kind of guy who loves taking that legalized bribery. So that's what this story's about. And they're just rubbing your face in it, because they're like, who cares? Come to our mansion, we'll do it right in front of everybody. Well, I'll put you in the room with the Republicans. You guys will all give us everything we want. Then you go run ads pretending you're against us. It'll be a nice little trick, and we'll rob the American people together. It's not a fun trick.
Right, and you mentioned the Blue Dog Democrats, which I'm glad you mentioned because this is essentially the same group, right? So Blue Dog Democrats fought aggressively against the Affordable Care Act. They fought aggressively and won in defeating any opportunity or chance for a public option as part of the Affordable Care Act. And you're right in that this group has now rebranded itself and they're going with center forward. And you have Democrats and Republicans working together to defeat something that polls incredibly well. In fact, the Kaiser Family Foundation did a poll asking specifically, do you support a single payer healthcare system, right? So there's no Medicare for all, there's no language like that, specifically a single payer healthcare system. 56% of voters, this includes Democrats and Republicans, were supportive of a single payer healthcare system, which means that they're working against what the majority of Americans want. And Jake mentioned legalized bribery. And in this case, it is legal because there was a loophole used. So for instance, let's go to graphic 4. The Ethics Committee rules bar registered lobbyists from arranging luxury travel for Congress. Although Center Forward's board is made up almost entirely of registered corporate lobbyists,
really?
The event forms were signed by the group's executive director, Corey Kramer, who is not a registered lobbyist, a technicality that helps skirt the prohibition on lobbyist-funded travel. So they use all these loopholes in order to get around ethics rules.
So look, Republicans also attended: Sean Duffy, Rodney Davis, Will Hurd, and these are all the guys that Joe Scarborough and the rest of television celebrate. So my question to you is, bipartisan compromise to what end? And that's a question I'm gonna keep on asking no matter what. To what end? Because they say, well, bipartisanship is great. Really? What if they have a bipartisan agreement to nuke a country? Well, then I would call it not great, right? And you say, well, that's an extreme example. How about if they did a bipartisan agreement to rob the American people of $73 billion? Well, that wouldn't be great either, right? That's exactly what's happened here. It's not a little like it, it's not an analogy, because George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, all of them said you are not allowed to negotiate with drug companies. You will bow your head and pay them an extra $73 billion that we definitely do not have to pay them if we negotiated like every other country in the world. And by the way, Obama ran campaign ads saying that he would defeat it, that he wouldn't do that policy, and he did anyway. And now you tell me it's not corruption? Sorry, I believe the much simpler possibility. It is corruption. Obama and the rest of the Democratic Party got paid by the drug companies, as they're getting paid today, to do that corruption, to help them rob you of that $73 billion. I know what their excuses are. Oh, we had to do a deal in order to get the Heritage Foundation plan passed. We killed the public option. We killed negotiating with drug prices. We left the entire health insurance industry in private hands and at their mercy, and they were allowed to raise their prices for insurance, let alone drugs, any way that they wanted. All those compromises we had to make, but what a lucky break. Our donors totally agreed with that. Wow, so lucky, Obama and the Democrats. Then Trump said, he ran ads, he went on the stump. Why can't we negotiate with drug companies? I'm gonna end that. What happened? He came in and like a little lapdog, Trump was like, yes, absolutely, sir, corruption. Trump's like, I didn't know we were doing corruption. Of course I jump in it. So now Trump and all the Republicans say, no, do not negotiate drug prices. It is insane. Is this capitalism, guys? Is this capitalism when you say, I'm not gonna negotiate anything. I'm just gonna, whatever a company tells me to do, I'm just gonna hand, not my money, the taxpayers' money. The taxpayers' money. If you're a conservative, you should despise this. So no, Joe Scarborough, rest of television, I do not agree to this bipartisan agreement. This is a bipartisan agreement to rob us blind. Where's my goddamn $73 billion? And by the way, some people don't take those drugs because they're so expensive. And you know what happens? They die. That's real. They're in the middle of a fire and we don't send them help. And we say, oh, you want the fire out? You got cancer? You got something that is existential threat, life or death? We're not gonna send help. And on top of that, we're gonna charge you more, making it more likely that you're gonna die. No, if you have a bipartisan agreement on things that the American people agree to, wonderful. If you have it on stuff that the donors agree to and that the American people hate, no deal. So call them what they are. These Democrats that go to these retreats and sell you out They are not on your team. They're not your colleagues. They're the corporate donors' colleagues. And they're paid to rob you like they did here. The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.